Hello and welcome to Ask the Experts. My name is Seth Juarez, and this is What's New in Azure Cognitive Services. Azure Cognitive Services is an amazing service that lets you put AI directly into your applications immediately. Do you want to find anomalies? Do you want to troubleshoot issues? Analyze how many people are staying apart? There's tons of amazing things that you can do, from vision to text to speech to language to decision to search. And so we're here to answer any questions. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is how you actually engage with the experts. You use the chat to ask questions. Questions will appear to all attendees once approved by the moderator. Upvote your favorite ones because a lot of them are going to come in, and we want to make sure that we answer your questions. Experts will answer questions verbally and over chat determined by myself. Experts will provide resources once the session concludes. To learn more, just look, I can talk to these folks all day, but it's really about you. So make sure you get your questions in early and often. There are no such thing as dumb questions, only dumb people. And none of you are here today. Code of conduct. The session may be recorded. Help our moderators do not spam or post inappropriate comments in the chat. Adhere to the Microsoft Code of Conduct, which is right here. Let's go to the next slide, please. Here it is. We just be kind. We're all people, and we're just trying to make services that will make your life better as well as your customers. So let's not do anything inappropriate or untoward because we will flag it. Okay, now let's get to who's actually here. My name is Seth Juarez. I lead AI ML efforts for cloud advocacy here at Microsoft, and I am here at my house. You can see here by all of my drawings that I made. They're really good drawings. But we've also got a ton of amazing experts, and I wasn't able to fit everyone that's here. So please get your questions ready. We have Marco Piumati, who is presenting the deck. As you can see on camera, you're going to have Adina, Bijong, Fani, Sanjeev, Alan, and Matthew. And what I thought I would do is we would go through and introduce everyone. Tell us who you are and what you do at Microsoft. That way folks know who to direct questions to, and then we can do that. So let's start with you, Adina. If we could bring her face up, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Adina Trufinescu. I'm a program manager. I'm working on Azure Cognitive Services, in particular on the computer vision service. And I'm here today to answer questions about spatial analysis, which is a new feature of the computer vision service.
Next, we'll go to Bijong. If you are there, buddy.
Hello, everyone, and I'm Bijong. I'm the dev manager of the Measures Advisor. It's one of the new cognitive service, and I'm here to answer any question you have regarding to the Measures Advisor. Thank you.
Funny.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fani Mutiala. I'm working as a program manager in Azure Cognitive Services. I'm primarily responsible for driving the container strategy for helping customers to deploy Azure Cognitive Services at the edge.
Sanjeev.
Hello, I'm the PM in the OCR and form recognizer team. So if you have anything to extract text from documents, images at scale, either get the text or get more intelligence, insights, label, train, whatever, I think that I'm the right contact for you. Thanks.
We also have the privilege of having two MVPs with us. I'm pretty excited about that. Let's start with you, Matthew.
Hi there, I'm Matthew Renzi. I'm a data science consultant, author, and public speaker, and I use cognitive services on my client projects and for teaching people how artificial intelligence works.
Fantastic. And last but not least, let's have Alan present himself if you're here, bud.
Hi, yeah. Nice to meet you all. I'm Alan. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. I'm an Azure MVP and a Dev Technology MVP, and I build things using Azure Cognitive Services.
Awesome. So we're going to start with the first question, which I think is a really good one to start. And if anyone wants to answer, just unmute yourself. Is Azure Cognitive Services, ML, AI, the same thing? Is ML, AI, and Cognitive Service, are they all the same thing? And Matthew, let's go with you because you have a lot of experience in the field. Are these all the same thing? Cognitive services, machine learning, and AI?
So the way I like to think about it is people typically use machine learning as kind of a catch-all for when you're teaching a machine how to solve a problem. But with cognitive services, someone's already done all of that work for you. So rather than you having to go and teach the model or train the model yourself, you're using a model someone else has trained, and then sometimes making minor customizations to it for your specific product or project, and then it's essentially just ready to go. And all of this is kind of considered the artificial intelligence space, essentially using computers to do anything that we would assume a human being could do, any kind of a natural intelligence or human intelligence replicated as a machine.
That's an awesome answer. Does anyone else have an answer of how cognitive services fits into the ML, AI, ML space? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Don't be shy. Go, please. Yes, Adina.
All right. So when you think about machine learning, this is where you bring your own data, you train the model, and you use the Azure machine learning infrastructure to build your own models. When you think about cognitive services, all that work has been done for you. So the cognitive services AI models are high quality and are pre-trained for the various domains. In addition to that, there are various custom cognitive services where you can further train the functionality just to accommodate the differences in your environment or in your different scenarios.
Awesome. Here's a couple of questions that we'll go through, and then if anyone wants to take them, just take them, right? What are the current and future solutions of cognitive services for radiology and radiation oncology medical imaging? I know we have something called custom vision that can help with that. Anyone can comment on cognitive services for imaging? If nobody does, I'll make stuff up, and then people will be like, wait, Seth, we don't really do that. Well, we do now. Look, if it were me, there is a cool, we have something called custom vision service that lets you upload images and annotate them to find things. And the models are quite robust. And if you do advanced training on them, it even does image rotation. It does the image, coloring, so that it not only do you put your images in there, but it augments the data set size. And if you know about machine learning, the bigger your data set, the better the models get to be. And so custom vision services is a great service to try it out on there. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. You can build your own models using Azure Machine Learning Service, but we'll talk about that some other time. All right, let's get some questions. Does the OCR service, can it read handwritten documents and make it searchable? Handwritten documents and make it searchable for OCR. Who wants to take that one?
Yeah, so I can answer that. So absolutely, as long as your handwritten text is in English, your OCR can actually extract the text and you can make it searchable, especially if you come into Azure Search, Cognitive Search, then OCR is integrated into that, and you can have a whole pipeline of intelligence built on top of the core OCR. So absolutely, yes. Again, for English only right now. And
cool beans.
Yeah, and then said there's another question actually that I could take up on the voices thing. So I see this question where it says we are building a model to read really complex telecom invoices in PDF format. Is there a way to extend current models instead of writing it from scratch? So we have the form recognizer product, which I mentioned in my intro, and that's where you can come in, and there are a couple of things you can do. You can either come in and train your own custom models by uploading your own forms and documents, and then either use the unsupervised variation to upload documents and make a custom trained model, or you can even label the extracted text elements to further customize it. But what's interesting is we are also coming out very soon with an pre-built invoice offering, and that means depending on your document format and how it matches up with the out-of-the-box model, you could actually try that as well. So there are a couple of options for you in the next 3 or 4 months. Either come and custom train a model using your own data, and it only takes 5 to 7 documents really to train a custom model, and go from there. And you might even want to try out the custom invoice, the pre-built invoice offering coming up soon.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, Sanjeev, there's a really cool open source project that you can use to create custom models. If you go to the What's New in Azure Cognitive Services, I demo this, and it's actually quite good. Number one, because it's a good app, and number two, because it's open source, and customers have been using that open source app to integrate this functionality into some of their tooling, which is really cool. So I just wanted to add that.
That's correct. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, here's a question from Matt Hyde. Would it be appropriate to use Metrics Advisor at an airport I work with to ingest baggage equipment? metrics advisor working at an airport. Bijong, you do a little bit with metrics advisor. Is that right? Why don't you tell us about how you could use it at an airport environment, I guess.
Okay, the measurement advisor actually is designed for these IoT scenarios. It means that if you can get your census data and you can aggregate it into a certain granularity, and you can just ingest them into the measurement advisor. And then after you ingest the data, you will automatically get anomaly detection results and root cause analysis service report. And for your scenario, it's exactly the same as we are using the measurement advisor in our cluster monitoring, and we collect the machine signal and also some network traffic and disk I/O signals, and then we do the predict maintenance for our cluster. So I think you can use this, and measurement advisor is designed to as easy as you ingesting data and you get the insights. So actually you can build on the insights for more scenario in your workplace. For example, you can do something like AirOps or doing some predictive maintenance you mentioned. Yes, you should use this.
So just to add on to that, and Marco, if you're still manning the slides, it looks like it's trying to get you to sign in. We probably don't want to see that anymore, but that's okay. You should sign in. This is not secret stuff anymore. So I had just recently heard about Metrics Advisor, and the reality of the matter is, if you have any kind of multi-dimensional time series data, you literally just hook it up and stuff just starts to happen. It's quite impressive. I was floored because look, I knew about anomaly detection, but it was a service that you had to like persistently call and do stuff with, and then they went the extra mile with Metric Advisor, and now you can actually just see the analysis that you would have done anyway. Does that fit with what you're saying, Bijong?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Can you give me any example of cognitive services in financial services? You want to take that one? Alan
actually,
or Matthew? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so actually in OCR and form recognizer space, a lot of our customers are coming from financial services too. And for the same reason, they are really trying to extract intelligent insights from loan documents, banking documents, financial documents, and so on. And more importantly, we also offer the same functionality on premise deployment as well. And so those companies who want data security and privacy and are compliance focused, then they can always download containers onto their environments too, and that's also helpful for that reason. Yeah,
that's a really good answer.
We heard
Go ahead,
customers. Yeah, and also we heard customers coming in from banking and insurance, leveraging speech services for call center transcription and analytics as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what's cool about this is when we think about places like in the financial sector or the healthcare sector, there is like, look, there's a ton of paper going everywhere that we want to extract insight out of. The benefit of having this service, and as far as I know, we're the only company that will lift and shift these kinds of services down on premises, is you have the benefit of making sure that none of your sensitive documents ever leave your premises, which is quite cool. So you could run all of the insights. The only thing we send back is how many times have you called it, right? Because the billing is the same. And it's pretty cool that you're able to do that. And so particularly for those like in the financial sector, healthcare sector, et cetera, where there's some privacy issues, you can totally do that. And I think you can do it with spatial analysis. Is that right, Adina?
Yes, that is right. So with spatial analysis, there are a bunch of scenarios that you can enable. I can talk about that for a second.
Yeah. We'll give you a second, and then we're going to move on to some other stuff too. Yeah.
Okay, so for the three use cases are people counting, and then social distancing, and then exit and enter of spaces.
Awesome. All right, so let's go to the next question. What languages are currently supported at good quality level in cognitive services? And I suspect that by languages, they mean written languages. Who would like to take that one? I'm sure there's like a website with all of the answers. So So if someone would go and look for that, because look, I have a hard time sometimes keeping straight all of the stuff we support because it's a lot, and so hopefully someone will get a list down of that. Here's another interesting question, and this is about object detection. And so for those of you that are object detection experts, perhaps you can help us out. Have we classified or do we have a taxonomy for object detection? So who would like to take this one about how object detection currently works and how the models are trained in custom vision? Because if not, I will. So that's a good question. Microsoft does not maintain a taxonomy of things, and it's like, oh, that looks like an animal, and then there's like a tree that it goes down. Basically, the way these models work is they look at the pictures, and you put boxes around the objects of things you want to tag, and then you give it a label. So, for example, you might want to label a bunch of cans that are on the street. You basically will put a box around those things, and you can call it a cat, and it will say, every time it sees a can, it will say, that's a cat, because it doesn't know anything about real life. It's basically a bunch of numbers, and it spits out a bunch of numbers, and there's a bunch of functions that it goes through. And so it's not like it's learning about life. It's basically learning what pixels constitute the shape of the thing you want to object detect, and you are the one that has to label that thing. Okay, did I get this right, friends? All right, let's go through some more questions here. Okay, and this is, no, let me keep going. Okay, here's someone from Anonymous. I have been developing a corporate bylaws analysis tool, and I'm running into a limit on the size of the document that the sandbox can handle. Will that change? And I'm guessing the sandbox in terms of OCR. Let's talk about OCR and how much, because my understanding is there's a way to call it for free. Let's talk about the limits on that. Who has that on OCR?
Yeah, so we do have a free tier set on the OCR service, but there are limitations there. Yeah, so what was the question about the limits? Because I was going through the questions very carefully on the chat window.
Yeah, the question was, he was running into limits, and I think a general statement on what the limits might be when you're using the service, because I know there's a way to freely call it, but then after a certain amount.
Yeah, so for the free tier, if you're on the free tier, then although the paid service supports up to 2,000 pages in a document, for the free tier, only first 2 pages are supported, right? And so that's why sometimes customers will get errors, even though they are sending only 5 pages, and they might get errors and they might get confused, but that's the reason why, because you're probably on the free tier. And then there's a limitation on the file size as well. So while the file size is supported up to 50 MBs, but the free tier only supports up to 4 megabytes too. So that could be again the other, I guess, caveat there when you're using the free tier.
So when you're using the service, how much does it cost per call? It's like some fraction of a cent, isn't it?
So right now it's OCR. The read OCR is $2.50 per 1,000 transactions, right? So yeah, it drops down to cents for each document for sure.
So I mean,
yeah,
I think I spent $2 the other day on. Right. No, it's not a lot. Look. I was thinking about this the other day, right? Because I was using Form Recognizer to do this demo, right? And demos like that take a long time to make if you want to do them right. And I was thinking, like, imagine the scenario where I would have to pay, if I would have to actually spend the time being like, oh, let me look at that form. Let me type it in. Here, I have a mechanical keyboard. Let me type it in. Oh, there's another thing. Let me type it in. And here, Sanjeev is telling us that it's roughly $2 for 1,000 of those. I would gladly pay $2 for that if it were up to me. Okay, we haven't heard from you, Alan. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you've used cognitive services or some thoughts on cognitive service in general, because I want to make sure we get you some time, my friend.
Great. Actually, the question on the financial services, we've used cognitive services to process documents. So basically batch process OCR documents and things like that. So that's a big thing with the financial industry, because they'll be submitting identification documents and forms and things to fill in. And so that's a big thing that we've used it for. Also done lots of custom vision projects where we identify images, classify them, and implementations like that.
That's why I like having people like Alan and Matthew here, because they keep us honest, right? They're like, hey, yeah, we've actually used it.
Yes.
And found value. So that makes us really happy. Here's another question. Will there be more of a blend between the form recognizer and the optical tools that handle handwritten analysis?
Yeah, so I think it'll be good to understand the use case a little bit more, Seth, I guess, in this case. But for sure, as far as document recognition go, recognizing charts and tables and graphics on the documents, which are increasingly common, especially if you look at scientific documents and so on. That's certainly, part of our long-term roadmap for sure.
That's cool. So I haven't seen a lot of questions about spatial analysis. You mentioned a little bit, Adina, about what it does, but I actually saw a demo from RXR that used this. Can you give us like the elevator speech for spatial analysis and talk about perhaps the session that's coming up soon about it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
All right. Spatial analysis is a new feature of the computer vision service. It operates on live video and it understands people movement in physical space. So I've mentioned the 3 use cases, which are people counting in a physical space, social distancing, or rather distance between people, and enter and exiting spaces like zone crossing or line crossing. It is spatial analysis. When you look at the industries where it is relevant, we're talking about retail. So this is where we've seen retailers using it to understand like footfall in the store and people movement and time spent by people in front of a display or at the checkout line. Another industry is manufacturing, where safety operations require monitoring areas for the presence of people and alerting in case there are people in such areas where it's dangerous. And then the last one that I'm going to mention is real estate management. So this is where we've worked with RXR for their back to work scenarios. So specifically for RXR, they have been using person count and social distancing. So imagine that when people walk back into their office space, RXR is able to maintain to help people maintain social distance and then monitor the spaces for maximum occupancy. And this is the way where they help they have their employees and their employees of the customers and healthy.
Got it. Yeah, and it's a cool service, especially given where we are right now. Okay. From Tim, hello, can you talk about best practices in bridging the privacy concerns when using line vision services in a commercial environment? Example use case is detecting hard hat compliance in manufacturing environment. So how do we use AI ethically in this case and make sure that we're maintaining privacy while detecting, for example, a hard hat, which you could easily do with a custom vision service? Anyone have any thoughts on that? And just feel free to speak up. Everyone's welcome.
Well, I haven't actually done any projects in this specific space, but I've heard some people concerned specifically from like union shops where they have specific privacy rules around what can be like videotaped or photographed, and it can't actually report a individual. It can just report that an incident has occurred. So one of the things I'm aware that has been done is the blurring of faces in order to anonymize a person in the image. So you can show an incident that had happened without actually exposing the person who had caused the incident in that video capture of the incident.
Got it. So blurring. Also, Fani, do you have any suggestions for people that do not want, for example, people's faces or things like that to leave the premises? What do you suggest?
Yeah, I think for this, that's the main purpose that we have containers for on-prem, where customers can deploy the technology at their on-premises and close the data so that they can meet all the regulatory requirements, privacy concerns, and the security concerns in order to meet the organization and the company standards. Yeah, So that's the prime reason we have containers only for the on-premises and also at the edge.
So I'm getting a question here from Mike regarding managing costs. Now, the pricing model for all cognitive services is basically per n number of calls across services. How does one go about managing that cost? I know we have a free offering to start, but how would one go about managing that? And there's a bunch of you from the product team here who may have some ideas.
Is the question about predictability instead
Yes.
of having different prices?
Yeah.
I believe we have a cognitive services unique key. I don't know whether that suffices the need of predictability, but yeah, each and every service has their own pricing. We don't have a standard pricing across the board. We might come up very soon on that approach, but for now, each service has their own pricing.
I know there was a bank, or I don't know what it was, but there was a company in South Africa. Alan, you're there, aren't you? Where they built something that would gate the calls to the containers / services in a way that they could manage costs. But basically, the reality of the matter is that you call it as much as you need, right? And the cost is, well, it costs what it costs. But the reality is, you either have a human do it, or you liberate those humans to do even more important tasks inside of your organization. Because look, and this maybe if I was wearing a tie, I would flip it. Right? I used to teach in college, right? And I flip the tie when it's like Seth's opinion. So I'm flipping my tie. Like AI, the greatest thing about AI, and we're kind of running out of time here, is that it will liberate humanity to do the tasks where to not have to do the tasks where we don't have to think about it. Like we don't have to think about it, right? For example, if you're looking at a piece of paper and like moving things on a piece of paper to a row in a database, you're not really thinking about it, right? If you're translating stuff, you're kind of half thinking about it. Like I used to translate all the time because I speak Spanish, right? And translating, I would have to get into this mental non-state in order to do it well, right? And so it's actually a pretty cool technology because it frees your people up to do the things that humans do best, which is be creative, have some ingenuity, and create new things for people, right? And so that's my mini opinion there. All right, let's go to the back of the questions, and I'll put my tie back into the right spot. Any cognitive service for noise and/or vibration recognition? I would probably use anomaly detector on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm that
Be the logical one, yes.
Was that you, Bijan?
Oh, okay. Yeah, the message advisor actually is built on another cognitive service called anomaly detector, and any sequential data like some voice and image sequence, and they can all transfer to be sequence data. So actually the noise in a sequence would be the right function of the measure advisor and anomaly detector. So I think you can try both products to see which one is good for you. And measure advisor actually is a path which encapsulates data streaming pipeline. And anomaly detector is actually AI, the pre-trained AI API. So if you are using something in your container or in your edge device, and you try anomaly detector. And if you are building a solution for the whole monitoring, and you can use the measure advisor.
Awesome. Well, we are nearly out of time, so if we can go to the next slide, Marco. If people want to learn more about all of this goodness, there's a ton of stuff here that you can go to get all of this goodness. The reality is that these services are there to make your businesses better, to free your people up to do important work in your company. And again, we are all super excited to answer any questions you may have. Thank you so much to Adina, Bijan, Fani, Sanjeev, Alan, and Matthew for our in-field experts. And I think we are about done for today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thanks, Ed. Thank you all.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.